Good evening, everyone. My name is Moises Esparza. I'm the exhibitions manager for the San Diego Latino Film Festival. Welcome to our 28th edition, which launched just yesterday with a drive-in activation at the South Bay. We're now using our virtual platform Eventive through March 21st. So we're at the beginning of the film festival. There are still plenty of days to watch amazing films and to, of course, listen to conversations that we'll be having with participating filmmakers. So if you're just tuning in now, Eventive is a very interactive platform. You can leave comments if you're watching from our Facebook or YouTube pages. Type them out. I can bring them on screen. They'll appear as lower thirds. They can be questions, feedback for the director, and any other comment you want to make. And then if you're on the Eventive platform watching right after the film ended, you can also type out questions, and then our tech individual will be posting them on our chat, and we can bring them on screen as well. So there's different ways to interact with our visiting filmmaker. Make sure that if you want to share something, feel free to do so. We want to create an atmosphere that's very similar to being in a movie theater after screening, discussing a film in a Q&A. Well, without much further ado, I'd like to introduce one of the co-directors of El Ultimo Balsero, Carlos Betancourt. Let me add him to the stream here. Hi, Carlos. How are you?
Good, good, good. How are you? Thank you so much.
I should also say co-writer, right?
Co-writer, co-director. That's correct.
Co-writer, yeah. Co-director. Oscar, the other director, could not join us today, but I'm so glad that we have Carlos here to answer some of my questions about El Ultimo Balsero. And if anyone else has any questions that's listening in, make sure, like I mentioned, to type them out. Carlos, I think something that when I was watching the film through the selection process, I think I'm always looking to get maybe hooked by the first 10 seconds of a movie, just because I see such a high volume of films. I like when the first shot maybe establishes a deeper meaning about the film that maybe extends throughout. And what we first see in your movie is an underwater shot and then an arm reaching towards a snow globe. Right. This to me just kind of, having watched the movie in retrospect, like when I thought about that scene, I was like, okay, that was so much story kind of condensed into a matter of seconds. I'm obviously very excited to hear your feedback on how this is conceptualized. So yeah, if you want to maybe talk about how this opening came about.
Right. Actually, I'm remember if I remember correctly, this was one of the first conversations that Oscar and I had was about the Globe. I don't even remember if I was going to be directing the film or involved in the directing of the film, or I was just giving notes to Oscar at the time. I was finishing AFI and he was writing this while shooting a show in Miami, Nickelodeon kids show or something like that. We come together from Cuba. We both came to the US. I ended up in LA, and after a while applied for AFI and got in for directing. And Oscar established himself as a cinematographer and also production company. The production company we created, he kind of migrated that reputation and clients, a network of people and drive, and that kind of like guerrilla filmmaking, but with the branded edge and a little bit of a more cinematic quest and the look for storytelling and all that. So it's kind of those same values that we established from the very beginning when we were just starting out in film school. And it was fun to reconnect and come back. So going back to your question, I'm sorry, derail a little bit there. Oscar had the story. New York was not. And by the way, am I spoiling the film? Would people have watched the film when
people are expected to have tuned in to be tuning who have seen the film, or they'll have this available after they watch the film, or also if they're maybe tuning in, they might be inspired to watch the film. So it goes very via avenues. But if there's any particular plot points that you want to avoid,
that's what I was saying. I don't want to spoil the film, but let's say we didn't have that ending. We didn't have the the whole what the snow globe is pointing at, which is more New York and all that. It wasn't that wasn't there, but the father's story was very much there. It comes from a personal perspective on the whole like dynamic from a different generation and from a male perspective that probably doesn't understand or doesn't want to look at any of that backstory that unravels through the film. So all that was there, and it was like, how can we put together all this, galvanize all these ideas into one thing that could, have had so much meaning? And we came up with the snow globe idea. We had, remember, there was one at my grandma's house, and some, like in Cuba, of course, the island creature that had never seen the snow. That thing that hits you, it's like you've never been out of the Caribbean, you've never seen the snow. The snow, this is the closest you had to the snow. So I think we had that snow bite about the talking about the snow globe and the haven't seen the snow, blah blah blah. But it probably was one of those many things that got cut during the editing, because we shot like 2 hours of a film, or closer to that, an hour and 40 minutes, and ended up with 80 minutes of film. So we cut a lot of stuff. It's very like, as you see, slices of life and conversations and moments. So to get it to that spot, to that point, we improvised a lot with the actors. We recorded other scenes. We found a lot of our story in the editing too. But yeah, going back to the snow globe, it was that. It was just finding something that could really be that drive, could be a physical representation of that, and also something that comes with the character a little bit. It's like he's a philosopher. He's bringing from Cuba. He chooses to bring a snow globe out of, why don't you bring a Swiss Army knife? Maybe that's better for a raft trip than the snow globe. But that was also encapsulating the whole absurdity of the situation and the character, how much a fish out of water he was, how much impulsive this idea was for him. So it encapsulated so many other layers. Plus, of course, the emotional part of being something that his father led, all the other stuff that you see throughout the film. You get to know how much meaning that little snow globe has.
Right. It's almost like this is kind of a maybe tired metaphor, but or simile. It's like a little bit of onion peeling that you're peeling along the way, where new layers of that story are kind of building themselves to maybe amount to, I guess, the ending of the film, perhaps, in both meaning and what you see on screen.
Right.
How much of I guess of as an immigrant yourself, how much did that experience make it on to the script and on screen?
A lot. I feel like it's a collective composition there of me, Oscar, Hector, Nestor, who plays Ale, but he's also from same art school that we all came together. So there's a lot of us there and our own experience and this generation of Cuban immigration, which is, I guess, different. And our particular experience as artists as well, which is close to, being in any other, as a philosopher, as a historian, as an academic, which my parents are, so it's very close to. And then the whole, of course, none of us had that particular experience of having coming in the day that the policy is rescinded and being in that limbo. That was Oscar's idea of like, how do we get, what's the hook of the story, or what would be the beginning of it, and how can that play out? And we're seeing it play out in reality now. It was more of a us kind of thinking, how would that work out? And they are still trying to figure it out in the politics around us. So we're also, this is a film about one experience and about the human experience and that fish out of water immigration story that is very particular to the Cuban experience, that comes with the privilege with it. That it also, comes down to the revolution in the beginning. We're going to talk about that for hours, but it does come, if you compare it to any other country that comes into the U.S., it does have a level of privilege coming in and couldn't play, having to the ability to claim political asylum and to prove that, and that all went out the window. And it was like, how did community adapted to that? And we saw some of that then after recently and all that stuff. So, our film, without having to, we started this in 2016, or 2017.
Okay.
So everything that happened afterwards with the huge big support to more conservative ideas of the Cuban community and all that, which our film has a little bit, or has some sort of that in our own naive fish out of water experience. It did have some of a coincidental, interesting thing when we're in the round of festivals and the Trump thing is going on, and the Cubans are in the forefront of that, not for the right good reason, unfortunately. I gotta say, but I gotta say, it's not all Cubans, of course. It's not as you always can see. It's the spotlight, and that's what the film explores, is the rainbow and all the things that are going on. And you have Lenin as a character, which is a beautiful character, and you have so many. You have Lucy as a character. That whole we just also we wanted to cast close to character. We wanted to have actors. Cristina is an amazing DJ herself, a musician, even more than an actress, but she was so close to the experience. She had gotten to Cuba recently, and it was like, you can tap into who you were 6 months ago before having to have that first trip, and how much disconnected, in a good way, how much disconnected you are, how much you can go back to it. So we had all this conversation, and she like rebuilt the character for herself too, and brought so much to it. Same with Carmen, who plays La Santera. It's so much fun, because also that's a part that we're also discovering. We're writing a script as Cuban who just came here. So we are Ernesto. The actors brought their own experience to it, which we could have never predicted. We allowed the experience to play out because we were open and we had the opportunity in the script. The script was written to allow it to play itself in that way, but we never wanted to write down Carmen's Spanglish as it would sound. We wanted her to bring that, and that was the beauty of it, which was we could only sit back and enjoy it when it was playing out. It was awesome.
Yeah, when watching the film in present day, it's maybe hard not to associate it so closely with politics and the political climate. I guess as an artist, where and how do you think your art intersects with politics, and to what degree do you want it to intersect? I mean, obviously the film is about a political a policy that was rescinded, but I guess as an artist, like when your film enters a fray that's politically maybe explicit, like does that maybe affect the artist, or like an artistic intention, would you say?
I would say that the political or the social framework has always been interesting to me. I guess growing up in Cuba, you cannot separate it from anything else in life, but also finding the humanity in it, or finding that that's just the first layer, and or one layer if you want to look at it. But really the human beings connecting throughout the film and finding who they are, and we like just digging deeper into who these people are and what and how much they are affected by these changing worlds is what really makes it for me important about any kind of storytelling, filmmaking, or art form, is finding that humanity that transcends. It only happens with music and painting and sometimes filmmaking. When you really get into that mood that goes beyond politics or social economics or anything like that, and you're really connected with story and human beings going throughout it, and you find the universality because any of us could be that kid at that specific moment. So that was the hope. It's finding that universal humanity in this very specific situation. And in my shorts before, I've had that exploration too, with a lot of like magical realism and a lot of other influences, that it goes beyond the whole like social realism, greedy kind of filmmaking that you could maybe associate, or more of that social one, which is in this film. There is also that exploration as well, and there is that quest for visual storytelling to touch on that kind of like more of the intangible, the music, the connections. There's a lot of that too, a lot of little references to Cuban music from many different times, and we wanted that. We worked with an amazing musician, Harold Lopez Nusa, and Sima Funk, who was the voice of the last piece. Is amazing Cuban musicians as well. So it has been great to also reconnect. When I was at AFI, they would always ask, when are you going to do the Cuban film, the Cuban movie? And I was like, I cannot do it in LA. I got to go back to, either Miami or Cuba and like do it there. So this is like the Cuba outside of Cuba. Just starting out. I have other stuff that it does have some of that flavor too coming up.
We have something to look forward to for sure. The film operates on thematically on so many layers. It's an immigration story. It's a story about a man trying to reconnect maybe with his past by searching out his father, and what involve or him reconnecting with friends. It's a story of friendship also. I mean, it's so multi-layered. In organizing a movie, how do you balance everything out? Because the film, I mean, you said you said you cut maybe 40 minutes or 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, 30-40 minutes we cut out.
I think like there's so much to explore here, like in the world that you've built, I think, and in these different themes. And then there's also the story of repressed desire and not being able to express your oppressed desire, and not being able to express your sexual preference. So I guess to me, I guess when I think about all these things, I'm like, okay, that sounds like a tough balancing act. But when I watch the movie, it's all maybe it's very seamless. So maybe talk a little bit about this care that you that you and Oscar took in balancing everything out.
Yeah, which by the way has been it was a quest throughout. It was a quest during the screenwriting phase, which we knew we had too much to play with. But we had a through line. We had the quest for the father. We had a lot of stuff that was driving us. But really, to be honest, and first-time filmmakers, feature filmmakers, we hadn't had this monster before, and we knew we wanted to explore masculinity. We wanted to explore the gay, straight narrative in a different way, because he is the son. He is coming in, and this came from personal experience from Oscar's family, but they wanted to force his uncle, but that never happened. So it was that
Oh wow.
that closeness we had to that. But we was like, okay, what if it had happened, and now we have the whole macho culture thing, but let's not have it in a guy that you would like see through it right away, which Ale is a little bit more of that. We wanted with Ernesto to have the quiet, the one that you wouldn't express any macho trait kind of stuff, but would laugh when the friend does cracks out the joke, or would like never step in or say anything. He never calls out Ale in any of Ale's behaviors, which are a lot of not great stuff that Ale does.
Right.
So we, and that was all intentional. It was like we wanted him to like take everything in, and then at some point, even during editing, we found out this like very straightforward way of moving along. One of the things that we really wanted to do is gravitate towards the scene with Thomas, the dinner scene where he had some sort of a future for him. He's been waiting for this meeting. It's an important moment. He can get a job opportunity or whatever out of it, and he blows it. So it was like, okay, if this is the climax, which it wasn't intended to be, by the way, we changed this whole thing along the way. That's like we kept reworking the narrative all the way up through the editing. And then we were like, okay, if this is the climax, let's tribute to that. And he's basically choosing between Ale and Lennon and Lucy in that world. It's like a guy that has a choice to make, these two opportunities. Comes in looking for father and all that, but that's not really what's going on. What's going on structurally is that one choice, and that's what the character goes through the entire film. And all the other insular stuff, as you were saying, are themes that are gravitating, and their conversations are happening, or hints that we're hinting at things that happened in the past that he's wrestling with, his own mental health, I guess, like with all everything that is happening. But then you have that simple choice: Ale and his world, Lenin, Lucy, and their world, and both of them have complications and have good sides that you see throughout the film, and Ernesto makes a choice at the end. That's it. And if you see it that way, it's like, that's simple enough, for a structure to work. So when we got that, we were like, okay, we finally got it. We got the good part, we got the heart of it, and we know what we're doing finally. So it's truly like being completely honest. It was a process of exploration, of getting the narrative to work, basically.
And was there collaboration from the actors informing this at all?
More of the characters and the moments. Once we got into the editing and we got into like going back to narrative phase, because once you're editing, you're rewriting the film. Then it was more Oscar and I, and then some friends and trusted people that I really am super grateful that watched the film and gave us notes, and we came back and recrafted and cut it and found other stuff and dumped away a bunch of stuff. But yeah, no, it's a very, very, very fun and educational exploration, I would say, for sure.
Maybe talk a little bit about Lennon as a character who I think is so fully formed and realized, and who eventually becomes a father figure. Tell me about the creation of this character, and maybe the name Lennon sounds, maybe, I don't know if it's on the nose or something, but I just thought that was a great touch. But yeah, talk a little bit about Lennon.
Right. No, it's another one of those like a lot of bold choices and character choices there for Lennon, for Ale, for a bunch of places in the film that we were like, we are borderline taunting with things that might be very what will you say, like archetypical, but then we were always shifting it around, and one of them is the whole Lennon thing and all that. So Lennon actually, Lennon was original. He was one of the OGs in the script. And from Oscar's very, very first approach to it, we of course reshaped it and we always talked about this is going to be the unsung father. It's going to be the father figure. He had way more exploration into the father son. There was an aftermath for the party scene where he gets all drunk to Lennon's house, which we got, and he kind of like takes care of him in a very like fatherly way and all that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we always talked about having that and having it unfold very very gradually, and having him very strong as a character, having unapologetic. That kind of like tells it like it is, but also thinks like it's one of these guys that is always challenging Ernesto, challenging his own friend, challenging the community as a whole. Lennon is that kind of driving force, and it's also the one character is kind of right in the film. He gets it. So and the actor was great to have. Chas was amazing. El Tío Chas, Uncle Chas, we call him now. He's very close friend, very creative, making a bunch of films in Puerto Rico now and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, Chas is great.
Was the actor who plays Ernesto also first choice? Is it Is it Hector?
Hector came in even, I don't know if it was even before me. He confirmed that he was in. Like, he confirmed it from Oscar's very first conversations. He had just moved to Miami. He did a film in Cuba called Viva, who got him into the Sundance Lab, and he won one.
Yeah, that's a great movie too.
Yeah, Viva is amazing, and Hector's amazing in Viva. So Hector was our. When we got Hector, we knew we had a film. It was that kind of like, okay, this is getting serious, because he's a very serious actor, and he goes about what he does in a very professional way, and I wanted to have that, and he's also a power force. He had just came out of this very good round with Viva, and went to Sundance for the directing lab. And yeah, it was all passion, wanting to do this with us. And it was just the three of us, plus Alina, the producer, four of us just driving the truck forward, driving the raft. Yeah.
If I can maybe go back a little bit to, I guess this might be a structural question, but something else that I think that the film does wonderfully is, I guess it could be regarding tension in the film, more specifically the idea that for many immigrants, no matter what kind of day they're having, no matter what kind of experiences they're having, there's always a fear of their life being upended by being pulled over, or I don't want to spoil in the film, or being in a place in a car watching planes land, and then a police officer approaches you and asks for your ID.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the film is an exploration and tension in that way. So maybe tell us a little bit more about like these pivotal scenes. I know there's one in the film that we might not want to discuss, but this idea that the immigrant experience is one that's always full of tension, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned it right, exactly how we wanted to play out tension, and you see it a lot in films, because the experience and other experiences that are not the Cuban experience are way more tense, So, but we wanted to add this because for Ale is so light, and for everybody else around him is so light, but he's closer to, and again, I don't want to spoil it, to the people, the other group that you see in the film, than to Alex's experience. And that's what nobody gets. And everybody around him just goes about their day without thinking, hey, there's this one person in the room that is not Cuban as we are Cuban, and it makes a difference, a huge difference. So it was also for me that whole thing of like looking in the mirror and challenging all that in a beautiful way, questioning stuff. It's not like we have a lot of answers to say and pose in the film whatsoever. It's a film that poses questions, that brings this naivete vision to it, a little bit Voltairean in a way of like, I'm so naive that then the questions you pose even brings the attention of the wiser, because of that naivete with poignant opinions. That's kind of like what we wanted Ernesto to be for the community or for the Cuban experience, immigration in a way. So going back to tension, it was that idea. We wanted to have the idea of deportation as a very straight up fact that could happen, and the idea of prison, and the idea, all these things that doesn't sound close or doesn't sound familiar, because also they haven't, there's a purposely I don't know, intent of not covering that for the Cuban. It's like the Cuban goes seamless, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying it's not easy, way easier. I'm saying it is, but there is a lot of struggle and there is a lot of hurdle that regularly doesn't play out, because what is seen is it's Miami, it's fun, it's the US, you're gonna create, American dream, and that's all is sold all the time. Boom, boom, boom. That's all you're bombarded with, especially if you're not like in LA or New York or somewhere else, and you get out of the picture and you see it in a more, you see the bigger picture. But and again, this is me, an experience of the whole, like, seeing it through the eyes of the recién llegado, the fresh out of water kind of fresh of the boat kind of thing. So probably if you ask me in 10 years, I might have a different answer.
I guess stepping away from the interior of the film a bit, and we discussed this earlier during an earlier panel. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit about the reception of the film that it's had. I think it premiered at the Miami Film Festival you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting emails about that, about like screenings being added. Is that correct? Like,
yes,
added screening. Tell us a little bit about the reception of the film once it debuted, and maybe its trajectory during the reality that we're all living in now.
Yeah. No, it's been a tough one. We actually, it's been a tough one, but it's been a good one. So I'll talk about the good and the bad there.
Yeah.
We premiered at the Miami Film Festival, which was awesome, amazing opportunity. And we had 3 more screenings to go. They kept adding screening. We had, I think, 2 at the beginning, and then they got booked completely. They added another one, and then they had a 4th one, and all those 3 additional ones got canceled. So all our hopes were gone, you can imagine. And the world had bigger fish to fry than our little movie. We put all that away for a while until we got called by Sdlff, and they wanted us to be the opening night film for Sdlff Connect 2020. There was also this panic in the streaming world. What were the festivals going to do? We had a very unique opportunity of having done a film that it was almost, pretty much self-financed or done by friends. So we never had to account to bigger investors or studios or anything like that. We could do anything with our film. And we went ahead and, played the film and showcased it. And Edward James almost talked about the film. And it was such an amazing reception. Got, a lot of press and really good connections out of Sdlff. It was we had amazing industry week there. And then after that, just kept rolling, everything online, all the other festivals kept popping up. So I'm saying, like, we're almost at the end of a round of festivals now in San Diego, which is great. Feels close to home. I'm in Van Nuys right now, so we're very, very close by.
Very close.
Yeah. Anyways, that was that. And then, but then you lose the momentum of traveling and meeting people face to face and all the things that you lose, which, by the way, with everything that was happening in the world, I want to reiterate that it didn't feel right for us to be complaining or like talking about our film at the time. And we just kept getting the good part of it, which was people were more supportive. People were looking in the eye like you and I, speaking through this thing and the computer and the whole new online thing, but wanting to have that human connection for real, instead of like going with your drink around and trying to talk to industry people that are really about hanging out and enjoying the party, not about talking to you. So it changed the dynamic a little bit in a good way for the filmmaker, I guess. And we got a lot out of it. We got a lot of good questions, genuine connection, like for real talk of this is who we are, these are the questions we have, this is where we want to take our careers, or at least our ideas of that. So all that really went really well for us in terms of that kind of like connection that you would have in around the festivals. And then for the film, just really reaching out to audiences in the online world, talking to people, getting to know that. We got then accepted to the Havana Film Festival, which was it was a small kind of tryout thing, and they wanted to have a bigger festival in March. Would never happen. So we went to the tryout. It's been very experimental, but it's been great for us. We went to this thing, and they did it with social distancing in the cinemas. We played 2 nights, and it was awesome to watch it in Havana. We were really, we didn't know that they were going to accept us. So it was great. We're just awesome.
Yeah,
truly. And then we were playing at the Tower Theater in Miami at the same time. So that was another one that I don't know how many movies that played in Miami and Havana at the same time. So 2020 brought us all that, which was really amazing. We played in the New York Latino Film Festival, a bunch of others around Santa Fe, St. Louis, Boston. We won Best Picture. So anyways, we kept moving around in festivals in this online world, and we're soon to release some good announcement about where is the film going to live from now on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Very cool.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
In the last moments that I have with you, Carlos, do you want to share anything about any upcoming projects that you have? Any more specifics or?
Well, we're working hard on a few different things. We're developing a lot of material. We're shooting something if everything goes right. I don't know if I'm allowed to say much of anything of what's going on, but yeah, I'm doing another feature very soon. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I don't know how we're going to adapt to this whole world and what is happening. But I feel very hopeful of all the good connection and the humanity that is bringing out this whole crisis that we just lived through. It's truly, I think, speaking to people in a beautiful way, and at least I'm finding a very good tribe of people who want to do it right. And it feels like it's getting fashionable. Doing things right, which is awesome. It's like, okay, it's time that doing things the right way gets to be cool, again, somehow.
That's amazingly put. Well, Carlos, thanks so much for spending some time with us talking about El Ultimo Balsero. Thanks for sharing the film with the festival. This conversation is amazing. It's going to live on in our YouTube and Facebook pages.
Thank you.
So for anyone tuning in who may just have finished watching the film, this conversation will be available after now for you from the beginning, or if you are watching the film at a later juncture, this conversation will live on. Carlos, thanks once again. Hope to be in touch soon, and I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Someone wrote that they're watching it right now. Okay.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Carlos. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. Have a good one.